Hello, my name is John Deedy, professor of political science at the community colleges of Baltimore County and local political media analyst. Welcome to the Maryland State Politics and Government podcast on Substack. Today I am talking with candidate for Baltimore County Executive Pat Youn. Welcome to the show.
Good to be here. Thanks, John.
My first question is, how is the campaign going?
Pretty good. I mean, I would say since we qualified for public financing in January, that was the biggest milestone for us to hit things off and make sure that we're one viable and can have access to the funds available in the Public Financing Act. And since then, it's been off to the races. We opened up a campaign office, the outreach on the doors, on the phones, and engaging with folks. We've been continuing our house party campaign. The response has been great. Been able to answer a lot of questions. I think maybe for me, and this is also just from my experience being a candidate over the last 11 years, it's just been engaging with people and getting a sense of where they're at, especially our universe of voters we expect to come out. This race is really wide open, and folks are just now starting to pay attention to who's going to be on the ballot and what they're voting for in June for the primary.
When you meet with voters, not in fundraising settings, but when you run into them at the Giant or the Home Depot or some other smaller setting where it's just kind of you don't know who you're going to meet when you get there, what are the issues they're talking about?
Sure. When just to set that off too, the first question they ask the same one you asked, how's the campaign going? And we get a chance to kind of talk about the same thing we mentioned with you, the momentum's behind us. Uh, and just the folks have been coming to our side and our campaign to kind of find ways to volunteer, find ways to help us out, and putting their expertise to work for us has been humbling, but also exciting at this point. I'd say, I think we're 98 days out from the primary. The conversation when we're talking about what the future of the county looks like really goes back to and what my focus on my campaign has been about is making sure the government works for the folks that live here and for residents of Baltimore County. It's everybody's different, right? Sometimes we'll talk about education, sometimes we'll talk about economic development, the future of the county when it comes to policing. But at the end of the day, all of these pillars, all of these policy issues go back to this concept of I would say, as long as I've been actively involved in politics, there's this disconnect between the way that local government executes its role in trying to meet these expectations and the way that they engage the public in trying to solve problems. And I would say that most folks that we've engaged with would agree that it doesn't seem to be efficient, doesn't seem to be accountable, and doesn't seem to be transparent in how local government, our elected officials have made decisions that affect their lives, and a lot of times feel that they've been left out of how to solve issues when a lot of times they just want to be a partner in trying to solve problems.
Yeah, I have to talk with people in general. I always hear every 4 years, 2 years, whatever, when people are running, really transparency and things like that really seem to be the things that trigger voters.
Right. And I've found that too. And I think that it's important to focus on policy issues as one, hearing from people to kind of engage where our focus has been. Because at the end of the day, there's issues related to economic development, education, public safety, how we engage with development across this entire county. Everyone has a particular issue. And honestly, being from Dundalk, going over to Dundalk, house parties in Towson, all the way back to Catonsville, it runs the gambit on what comes first for folks. But at the end of the day, the one linking concern and I would say consistent criticism for local government, even before I got here, was about transparency and the way that we inform and engage the public in the process of trying to make the county better.
2022, when there was elections going on, one of the things that really kind of altered things was turnout with the governor's race. Do you feel that the state's attorney's race will trigger or change the turnout, may benefit or help you as far as that?
Or you're saying state for the Baltimore
state's
County
attorney's race. The race was
Right.
was Scott Schellenberger, Laura Lipscomb, and Sarah David. Do you think that race could trigger things as far as changing the outcome in your race?
Uh, I don't think so. But I only say that from a standpoint of, again, in regular voters, regular residents haven't really brought that race up to me, but they have brought up national politics. And I think that and if you're talking about what's driving turnout and potentially who we believe will come out, and every election, you're a little surprised. You have a set number. that we're all guessing what's the population of primary voter going to be? What's the population of general election voter going to be? Engage, and sometimes the new group of folks that weren't on anybody's radar will show up. What I've been seeing is there's a lot of folks that are angry and upset about what's happening at the national level, and I think that they're going to show that even in the midterm, knowing or even not knowing that they're going to show up and not see the president on their ballot. But those are folks that we haven't necessarily, or other campaigns haven't been engaging with. So in terms of driving turnout, I think it's going to affect this election. But what's good for us is that we're not just focusing our outreach and our focus on in areas or parts that are just on this population. It's about everybody. Everybody lives in Baltimore County. Democrats, folks that live in North County, west part of the county, and they're inviting their neighbors and their friends. And we're not, there isn't a line in the sand of who comes, or are you a Democratic voter, or are you going to vote in the primary? There are folks that are going to show up that are feeling negatively about decisions that are being made at the national level, and it's going to push them out at this midterm. And I think that's going to play a role in who shows up to the primary, Democrats and Republicans in terms of numbers. But in terms of to your point, the state's attorney's rate, I have not heard a lot of folks engaging with me and my volunteers about the state's attorney's race, but I have heard them engage specifically without prompting about the national elections.
This is the national issues they're talking about, problems you can't clearly solve for the most part.
Absolutely.
But what are the national issues they're talking about?
Honestly, because it's the people that naturally come to our campaign events and talk to us are Democrats, or I would say more Democratic leaning, maybe independents. They're concerned about Trump. They're concerned about the decisions they're made. There's also this feeling of losing a sense of what they believed our country to be. I think even I, to some extent, prior to getting involved in politics, serving in the military, being an Eagle Scout and being raised to be part of a democratic process that, while not perfect, includes people and is set up to include folks. People feel like we're getting away from that, where people are clearly showing their discontent, but they're not being listened to, and they're taking upon themselves to make decisions that I would say the majority of the country doesn't agree with. And every day there's a new embarrassment that they see on TV or hear on the radio that we are now guilty by association, because there's nothing we can do to stop it, because at the federal level, we're embarrassing our allies, we're embarrassing ourselves, we're starting wars in other countries that are not necessary, and also putting our men and women in uniform at risk. So a lot of that is all tied to this feeling of a national identity that I don't think people are proud of right now.
I know people in politics and people who like politics, they have what I call a political hero or a North Star, someone that you try to maybe walk in their path, or someone they just really admire, that they've read a few of their books and look at them that way. Who is your political North Stars?
Goodness, that is a great question. So I'd have to say, I think about Teddy Roosevelt a lot. One, from his stance of being sort of outside the box, taking things and engaging with real people that resonated with them in his time. And like you said, reading different books, going through a number of series of his. And I'm putting this out there where he was the first to sort of utilize TV in the early 1900s, or not TV, but video, to kind of show that he was a person and doing regular, things to kind of, one, recognize who he was, but also show to the public that people in office are just like them, that we're trying to do the best that we can, and that we believe that we're in a position to help. And I like that kind of concept, trying to take it from the early 1900s to now, utilizing social media, utilizing videos, in a way to bring up serious topics and talk with serious people, but at the same time show a human side of what we're doing. That at the end of the day, again, in a decade of doing this, I haven't met a politician that I haven't met a politician that isn't trying to do good or doesn't want things to get better. I think I found many folks I disagree with on how to get there. But the human piece of it, and the fact that people who are on the outside looking in, mistakes are made too. And at the end of the day, we're trying to do our best, and the best way that we can shift or meet expectations is to engage with regular folks and have regular folks engage with us through our process. The second one I'd say would be, his cousin, FDR, during World War II, and his way of tying the country together, Clearly, with my own videos with fireside chats, I take some inspiration from what he did. And since you asked, I didn't realize how tied to the Roosevelts I really was. But I seem to have two North Stars tied to Teddy and Franklin Roosevelt. So
What has surprised you the most about the campaign so far?
I would surprised about a couple aspects. One, the excitement from people when we talk about public financing and transparency and trying to get money out of politics. And it's surprising, I guess would be the wrong word, but the you I knew that this process of utilizing public financing resonated with me. It always has, but it had never been available in any race that I've run in before. And I knew from interacting with advocates throughout the years that this was something that other people cared about just as much. Didn't recognize that folks that may not be as tied into issues or even policy, how much the concept of getting large money and special interests out of politics resonated with across the entire board. Even folks that I've engaged with, and this happens on a campaign. You run into folks that have already committed, or they might have a personal relationship with somebody else. And I'm not here to belittle anybody. I'm not here to crush somebody who doesn't necessarily may not know me. But at the end of the day, even having a conversation about where they stand, what I stand for, and I have not had anyone, even if they said like, "Well, I appreciate who you are, Pat. I appreciate what you're doing, but I'm going another direction," that hasn't at least referenced the importance of public financing and getting money out of politics, even if they're choosing somebody that's utilizing a fundraising method that way. So that's been surprising. And also now being, now that we're 98 days out from the primary, which is par for the course, getting people to recognize how important the primary is and that it's coming up so quickly. And it's the nature of campaigning. Back in the summer and in the fall, folks, wow, you're out early. And now we're 99 days out, 98 days out, and folks are like, oh yeah, no, we need to start thinking about that. So that it's the change in mood and from folks that you're engaging with at the doors and on the phone. They're like, oh, that is coming up quick, and getting them in the mindset of thinking about who they should be thinking about for county executive, who their new county council person should be, and informing them about the expansion of the council and then the importance of the effect on local government.
Clinton loved campaigning. Barney Frank hated it. Thinking of Clinton on a scale of 1 to 10, Clinton being 10, Barney Frank being 0, where do you fall in the aspect of campaigning, love, hate with it?
I love campaigning. I guess you could put me at a solid 9. And I say that because it's a lot of times as an elected official, people are coming to you, and I've always enjoyed the aspect of my office being accessible, trying to solve problems, or making things better than when someone came in, even if the requested end state or solution wasn't something that could be accomplished through my office or through legal means. But being able to engage with new people, being able to engage with folks that I've engaged with for over a decade, meeting new people and giving them a chance to kind of tell me their story. I get invigorated by that, I guess. In terms of extrovert or introvert, I do get from a campaign sense or standpoint energy from bringing value and acknowledging the value that other people's stories across this entire county have, which has shaped the way that we're running, which has shaped the way in which transparency is a focus and accountability is a focus of the campaign. Yeah, I love it because it forces you to engage with the people that are going to be showing up to vote. And honestly, in real time, I think that's why we're doing. To your first question, things are going great, things are going well, and I can say that because of the interactions with people on the ground. We're not going off of polls, we're not going off of solicited data or paid for information. It's direct information from voters and people that live in this county about what their concerns are, and gives us a chance to kind of focus on how as the executive will be able to solve those problems and make life better across the county.
Do you feel there is an endorsement out there which could still be gotten that could affect the race?
Not one. I would, I think that there's endorsements are good for folks that are sort of getting into getting into doing their research and finding out who they're going to support, and if they have a reference point to a particular group. I don't think it's one. I think it's always a coalition of folks showing support for one particular person. And I say that from only in 2015 when I won my House delegate seats. I won by 34 votes, and I didn't have a single endorsement. The next time around, and obviously it was a smaller race. The next time around, I built relationships, engaged with different organizations, where I received obviously more than no endorsements. But at the end of the day, the thing that makes the difference is being able to make a personal connection with voters. And I think that that connection and that relationship in terms of making somebody change their mind isn't based on one particular endorsement. I think it's based on people showing support collectively and showing momentum behind a particular person because their views are shared with other folks. So I think the answer is yes, but not one. I think there are a lot of organizations that have done the interviews but have not expressed or released who they're endorsing yet. But I don't believe that there's any one particular person or group that could change dramatically the direction of the race.
Final question is, what would you consider your biggest "what the hell was I thinking" moment during the campaign or while you've been serving in office?
That's a I already gave you props for the other great question. I think shifting from state politics and statewide a state position at the legislature to local government. I think there's something to be said about a professional body like the Maryland General Assembly and a legislative body like the County Council. And I say that where both are part-time. The state has obviously been around a lot longer and has a number of resources supporting the work that they do, a number of organizations, an entire department that's set up to make sure that they're following the law and being informed about the choices that they're making when it comes to legislation. And at the local level, and it's not just here, it's everywhere else, less of a support structure associated with the legislative branch and council members from across in any jurisdiction. The fact that there is a sense of purpose at the state level that I think is diluted at the local level, and getting to here and realizing that I'm glad I had the experience coming from the state because there was a organized, accountable body to the decisions that we're making, and then coming to this local body where, unfortunately, because of that lack of support, there has been an understanding of trying to solve and fix problems that we as a council or the council themselves have created on their own. Because I think we're now in the fifth iteration of trying to solve legislation that was passed in the last 3 years. And I've never seen any sort of legislative body do that from my previous experience. To have to go back and fix consistently decisions that you made because there wasn't time put in, there wasn't thought put into it, or outside folks engaging with you about the troubles that they foresee coming in the future were not addressed, and now we're addressing them now. And so I would say shifting from the state to the local government, which is also why I'm running for county executive now. There's a level of execution and accountability that I think is required at the executive level that has been missing from some of the folks at the county council level. That is important to, I think, the public and to the way the government runs. And I look forward to putting that into action as your county executive.
I want to thank you again for your time. I appreciate this very much. I want to remind everybody that on Tuesday, April 7th at 9:30 in the morning, Mr. Young, along with some of the other candidates running for county executive, will be at CCBC for a candidates forum. Thank you again. Have a great day and good luck on the campaign trail.
Thank you, John. Looking forward to it.